Good morning and welcome back to The Girl Who Speaks Bear, written by Sophie Anderson, illustrated by Catherine Heronesta, and read with permission from Usborne Publishers. We're up to chapter 30, The Truth in the Story. Not a huge amount of the book left either. But your heart wasn't really frozen by Father Frost, was it? I frown at Anatoly, annoyed by the vagueness of his story. There's truth in all my stories, Anatoly says softly. But they aren't the truth. You twist the truth and dress it up. You embellish it. I snap, remembering Valentina's words. Like how you told me at my birth mother was a princess. She was a princess to me. I growl in frustration. Does Mamochka know, I ask, about you being my father? No. Anatoly shakes his head. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell you both, but... He stares down at his paws. His eyes are huge, silvery pools. Explain it to me, I demand. Explain everything to me, without making it a story, so I can be sure what's true. Anatoly nods and opens his mouth. Words don't come straight away, and when they do, they're stilted and unsure. Nothing like his flowing tales, but I like them better, because I know these words will be the truth that I've been waiting for my whole life. When I was young, I lived in the forest with my parents. I only ever remember them being bears, and the other creatures of the forest call them the bear Tsar and the bear Tsarina. I was a bear too, most days, but sometimes I'd wake as a boy. It might last a day or a week or a month, but then I'd wake as a bear again. My parents told me it was a curse, and that I'd grow out of it. But you didn't. I look into Anatoly's eyes and he shakes his head. As I grew older, I spent more time as a human and less as a bear. Eventually, I left the forest to become a fisherman. Years went by and I stopped turning into a bear altogether. Anatoly smiles sadly. I almost convinced myself that it had all been a strange childhood fantasy. But then I met your mother, Nastasia, and we had you, and I was a bear? Not at first. You were born a baby girl. We named you Ilitsa because you were strong and as beautiful as a fir tree. My mouth drops as I realise I had a different name once. Mamochka had no way of knowing, so she called me Yanka because she thought I was strong and as beautiful as a river. I think Yanka suits me better because a river changes too. 5 days after you were born, you turned into a bear cub. You should have seen the look on your mother's face. Anatoly's shoulders wobble with silent laughter. Of course, your mother would have loved you no matter what form you took, but I felt I had to do something. All my childhood memories came flooding back. I remember how difficult it had been to be neither a bear nor human, but stuck shifting between the two. I wanted to protect you from this. Anatoly looks at his huge furry body and frowns. So I went to my mother, the bear Tsarina, and tried to get her to remember her past. It took days, but finally I pieced together the story of the lime tree and the curse from what was left of her human memories. Then you came here to find the tree? I thought I could fix everything by myself, Anatoly sighs. I thought I could fight my way past Smay and convince the tree to lift the curse. Anatoly's eyes well with tears. But I angered Smay. Then your mother came after me and... He shudders as if he's suppressing a sob or a roar. Her death was my fault. Parts of me want to wrap my arms around Anatoly, but I sit still, the freezing air prickling between us, and wait for him to continue. I lay, broken and burned beneath the fire dragon's cavern. I'd have died if it weren't for Valentina. I nod with the realization that the house's story, the one about the fisherman's soul, was about Valentina saving Anatoly. Even after Valentina put me back together and treated my injuries, there were days I thought I'd die of a broken heart. I couldn't face you, not after what I'd done, but I watched you, every day, my heart slowly mending and my courage building. I hoped one day I'd grow strong enough to be a worthy father for you. Anatoly glances up at me, memories dancing in his eyes. Some days you were a cub, some days a girl, but you were always happy. Your grandmother doted on you, and you played with your whole body smiling. You didn't need me or my sadness. I opened my mouth wanting to argue with him, wanting to yell at him that of course I needed a father, sad or not, and he should have taken me back and raised me himself. But Anatoly's eyes are so full of grief and regret that my anger cools and drifts away, like Smay in the snowstorm. I know I was wrong, Anatoly says sadly, but by the time I'd realised it, it was too late. You were with your Mamochka, and there never seemed to be a good time to tell you. How did I end up with Mamochka? One day I came to visit you, but you were gone. A tear rolls into the fur of Anatoly's cheeks and freezes there, reflecting the starlight. Your grandmother told me she had given you to a human lady who was full of love. My grandmother gave me away? Not because she didn't want you, Anatoly rushes in. She only did what she thought was best. You were spending more time as a human, so she thought you'd be happier living with a human mother. She chose your Mamochka carefully. She watched her for months collecting herbs for her medicines in the forest, and when your Mamochka finally wandered close to the bear cave, your grandmother nudged you towards her. As soon as I found out what had happened, I tracked you and your Mamochka down. I was determined to tell you both the truth, to take you back and raise you myself. I should have, but... Anatoly sighs and shakes his head. You were happy with Mamochka. You were loved. The bond you two had right from the start was so special and beautiful. I didn't want to interfere with it. I felt inadequate, unable to give you what your Mamochka could, and no matter how hard I tried, the truth wouldn't come. I'm sorry. Please don't think I didn't love you or didn't want you, because that's not true. I do love you and want you in my life more than anything. My heart softens, but another wave of anger flows back as I remember waking as a bear. You could have at least told me about the curse, I grumble. You could have prepared me for this. I stare down at my paws and shake my head. It's no excuse, but I believed you wouldn't change into a bear again. After you moved in with your Mamochka, you stayed human. So I thought living with her, away from the forest, had cured you. Clearly not. I dig my claws into the ashy soil. Do you know why I've turned into a bear now? Anatoly shakes his head. I've never learned to control the changing, but I've learned to recognise the signs of it coming, that there are some patterns to it. Like what? When I was a fisherman, living with a human crew, I stopped changing into a bear. And when I was with your birth mother, Nastasia, I was always human, but after she died and I was alone in the forest, I became more bear. My grandmother told me that, as a bear, my human memories would fade. Is that true? Yes, but they never go away completely. Your grandmother is all bear, and even she remembers sometimes. When I'm a bear, my human memories come and go, but I've never forgotten you, or how you make me feel. I think even when specific memories fade, you remember something of the people you love. They pull you back into your human life. How often do you change now? I ask. A few times a year. I've changed less since I've grown close to your Mamochka. She makes me want to be human too. Anatoly smiles his shy, lopsided smile, and I notice his fur is patchy where his beard would have been if he were human. Perhaps both of us have more control over what we've become than we realise. But I didn't want to be a bear at the festival, so why did I grow bear legs? If you want a life as a human, you have to reach for them, let them into your world. I think we both struggle to do that sometimes, but it's never as hard as it seems to ask for or accept help. I think back to the moment I fell from the ice fort before I started turning into a bear. There were hands reaching for me, but I was too scared to take them. I thought they wouldn't hold me. I was worried they'd drop me or I'd pull them down. I look at the ship in the distance, where Mousetrap, Yuri, Ivan, Blackiston, the house and Elena are waiting for me. That's something I've learnt on this journey. Without the help of my friends, I could never have got here and defeated Smay. Anatoly follows my gaze. It sounds like in the last few days you've learnt more than I have in a decade. I've learned where I belong, I whisper. My feet twitch in an overwhelming urge to run back to my friends on the ship, to thank them for helping me, then to run all the way home to Mamochka and Sasha. But first, I need to move the tree. Then I can ask it to save Sasha and myself. I rise to my feet and turn to Anatoly. I need your help with something. Anything. Will you help me carry this tree to the house with the chicken legs? It's heavy, but we can do it together.